My name is Claire Benton. I'm 25 years old, and what I'm about to share with you is not a tale for the weak-hearted. This isn't one of those campfire stories told for thrills. This really happened to me just 8 months ago. I was desperate to escape the noise of the city, so I rented a remote Airbnb cabin deep in the woods of Oregon. It was supposed to be peaceful, solitary healing. But what I found was something else entirely. The cabin wasn't empty. It was waiting, and somehow it knew me before I even arrived. If you've ever felt like the walls around you were listening or the trees outside were watching, this story is for you. Like, share, and subscribe if you're ready to enter the dark. This story is written and edited by Dark Lifeside Diaries. I found the listing by accident. Single photo, a friend, cabin in the woods. No reviews, no name, just the words. Perfect silence for the soul. Available immediately. I messaged the host. Within seconds, I got a reply. Claire, the house is ready for you. That made me pause. I had never told them my name. My profile used a pseudonym. I even used a fake email to keep things private, but I ignored it because I was tired, burnt out. I needed to be somewhere where no one knew. May arrived at the cabin just before sunset. The drive was longer than expected. Winding roads, dense trees, no cell service. The trees weren't just tall. They were silent, not a single bird, not a rustle of wind. It was like stepping into a painting. Still trapped, the cabin itself looked older than in the picture, like it had stood there for over a century. Dark wood panels, moss-covered roof. No visible lights inside. Still, the door opened the moment I touched the knob. Not unlocked, it opened on its own. Inside, it was freezing, and yet the fireplace was burning. Logs crackled fresh, as if someone had just lit it. A steaming cup of tea sat on the small table near the window. Next to it, a note. Claire, welcome home. We've missed you. My skin turned to ice. No one was supposed to know I was coming. I hadn't told a soul. No social posts, no GPS location shared, and no host ever showed up. I checked the bedrooms, empty, the kitchen still. The entire place was furnished like it hadn't been touched in years, but somehow no dust like it had been. Waiting by nightfall, I had almost convinced myself it was just a weird glitch. Maybe the host had access to data I wasn't aware of. Maybe I guessed my name. I was tired. I fell asleep on the couch, lulled by the fireplace, but around 2 o'clock, Amy woke up to someone whispering. At first I thought it was the wind, but then I realized there was no wind. The trees outside were still as statues, and the whisper wasn't outside. It was in the cabin, right by my ear. Claire, you're finally back. I shut up. No one was there, but the tea on the table was warm again, steam rising. Fire was higher, and on the mirror across from me, written in fog, you never left. I wanted to leave. I grabbed my keys, packed my bag in seconds, but when I stepped outside, my car was gone. Not vandalized, gone as if it had never been there. The dirt road where I had parked now showed no tire tracks. I turned back toward the cabin, and the front door had changed. It was no longer open. It was now covered in bark, like a tree had grown over it. In minutes, I was trapped. I banged, screamed, but the forest didn't echo. Trees absorbed every sound. Suddenly, I heard the voice again, coming from inside the cabin, from every wall. Claire Benton, 1999. You were born for this house. This is your soil. This is your root. I ran into the woods. Branches cut my skin. My lungs burned. But I ran until I collapsed in the dark, and there, lying on the forest floor, I looked up and saw the cabin, not behind me, not far away, right in front of me again. No matter how far I ran, I always ended up back at the door, and this time it opened without me touching it. Inside, the fireplace was gone. The furniture was rearranged, and on the walls were dozens of photographs, all of me sleeping, brushing my hair, standing by the window. Photos I had never taken, and in one, I wasn't alone. Something stood behind me in the background, tall branch-like limbs, no face, just a shape made of forest and shadow. And on the back of the photo, written in red, Our Claire, she's come home. I screamed, burned the pictures, smashed the table, but they returned as soon as I blinked. The photos reappeared, except now they were older photos of other girls who looked like me. Different names, same face, different centuries, same smile. I wasn't the first, and I wasn't leaving, because this house in the forest wasn't an Airbnb. It was a collector, and it had been growing girls like me for over 100 years. Rooted, watched, remembered. I wasn't its guest. I was its harvest. I don't know how many days passed after that night. Maybe 3, maybe 13. The forest outside didn't change. The sky didn't move. The sun never rose, not fully, just a dull gray glow, like an overcast evening that stretched forever. I stopped using my phone after the battery died. No signal, no GPS, no help, and strangely no hunger, no thirst. I never felt tired. The cabin wasn't letting me live exactly. It was letting me exist. And While I existed, the house was watching me grow. The mirrors returned first. I had covered them with blankets on the first night, every reflective surface, even the windows. But now they were gone. The coverings, just vanished, and their place were tall floor-length mirrors I had never seen before. Their wooden frames looked carved from the trees outside. Their glass was black like still water before a storm, and they didn't show me, not exactly. They showed versions of me in dresses I didn't own, in hairstyles from decades past, some smiling, some crying, some with empty eyes. One just stood perfectly still until she blinked. But I started hearing voices again, not whispers this time, soft lullabies hummed through the floorboards, through the walls, through the trees. The melody was always the same, familiar, a song my grandmother used to hum to me when I was a kid. Except I never told anyone that, and she died 10 years ago. The house was singing my childhood back to me. It remembered things I'd forgotten. One night, I walked past the upstairs hallway and saw light pouring out from under a door I had never seen before. There had never been a second floor, but now the stairs were there, old wooden, covered in dust. They creaked as I climbed, but not loudly, almost rhythmically, like the stairs were leading me rather than supporting me. The top that door was cracked open. Inside was a nursery cradle, rocked itself, and the corner children's toys were scattered across the floor. Framed photos hung crookily on the walls, but they weren't children. They were me again, as a child, as a teenager, ages I never had photos of. There was one photo that shook me to my bones. It showed me as a newborn, but not in a hospital, in the woods, in a nest of moss and branches, and behind me the same branch-shaped figure from the earlier photo loomed like it was watching over me, maybe claiming May wanted to run again, but this time my legs wouldn't move. Literally, they wouldn't move. I looked down, and scream vines, thin, green, and alive, were wrapped around my ankles, crawling at my calves, weaving through my skin like roots searching for soil, and they weren't hurting me. They were feeding me. Could feel it, something ancient, something hollow, something so deeply tied to me that it felt more natural than blood. I tore at them, screamed, fell down the stairs. When I landed at the bottom, the house was dark again, silent, but I could still feel them under my skin growing. I tried to destroy the place, took a knife from the kitchen, slashed the drapes, broke the chairs, smashed every mirror I could, but each shard still showed my reflection, and not just one, hundreds of me standing in rows, silent, watching, and all of them began to smile. I heard the front door unlock. The bark had peeled back like wet papier. Rani made it 10 feet into the woods before everything changed again. Ground bent beneath my feet like a sheet of fabric. The trees twisted, turned, repeated, and when I stopped, the cabin was right in front of me again, but now it had 2 stories and 3 windows were glowing with warm golden light. Mirrors weren't just inside the house anymore. They were in the trees, hung like ornaments, reflecting me as I used to be, smiling, normal, alive. The house whispered again, but this time not from the walls, from within me. Claire, you are not the guest, you are the daughter, and daughters belong where they're planted. I opened my mouth to scream, and dirt came out, wet, black, crawling with roots. I fell to my knees, and from the soil something rosy, flower, dark red, pulsing with warmth. It leaned toward me like it was trying to speak. And then I understood. This house doesn't trap people, it grows them. It creates the perfect versions of them, and then it keeps them forever. Now every time I try to leave, I wake up on the floor in the nursery. The cradle still rocks, the lullaby still plays, and the mirrors are closer than ever. One night, I know I'll look into one and not see myself anymore, just the thing I'm becoming, a planted memory, an echo, a root. Time has no rules inside the forest house. I say inside, but by now I'm not sure where I begin and the house ends. The mirrors that used to reflect me now show only the roots. Not tree roots, but veins of memory running deep into the wood, through the soil, into the darkness. I don't remember what day it is. I don't even remember what it feels like to be human, because I'm not just Claire Benton anymore. I'm something older. It started with the dreams. I thought they were dreams anyway. Would close my eyes and suddenly be standing in a field, ankle deep in mist, the sky black above me and the ground pulsing below like a heartbeat. Wind would whisper in my grandmother's voice, "You've returned to the beginning, welcome back." Seedling, then I'd wake up, with dirt under my fingernails, my feet muddy, my hair full of leaves I had never touched, and when I opened the curtains the next morning, I saw that the trees had moved, not grown, moved. The forest rearranged itself overnight. Twisting paths, replacing hills, swallowing the clearing I once stood in. It was watching, and now it was surrounding. I tried one more time to leave. I followed the moss because I remembered from a documentary once that moss grows on the north side of trees, so I walked south for hours in silence until I stepped into a field full of wildflowers. Every single flower had a face my Some were laughing, some were crying, some were wide-eyed mouths stretched open as if screaming without sounding. The center of the field stood a scarecrow, except it wasn't made of straw. It was a woman tied to a wooden frame, eyes stitched shut, hair like mine around her neck, a wooden sign. The first Claire, and below it, bloomed, reaped, returned. I turned and ran. But I no longer knew where to go. The cabin appeared again, but older now, rotten in places. Alive in others, the windows blinked, yes, blinked, and one of them opened like a mouth and whispered, "You're almost ready, the bloom is near." Inside the cradle was gone in its place, a nest made of hair and bone, and tucked inside it a mirror, but this one didn't show me. It showed my parents back home sitting at the table, crying, holding a photo of me. Tried to scream to tell them I was here, but no sound came out. Instead, the mirror fogged, letters formed on the glass. "They buried you last week, you belong here now." I fell to the floor, cried, broke. Then something touched my shoulder, a hand, thin wooden fingers, warm. It was the scarecrow woman, but now she was alive, her stitches gone, her mouth smiled too wide. I waited just like you will, we're family now. That night the forest came inside, branches curled through the fireplace, vines slithered across the floor, leaves grew from the walls like veins in the mirrors. Oh God, the mirrors, they chanted in my voice and all the voices of all the Claires that came before. Rooted, remembered, reborn, rooted, remembered, reborn. I stood before the tallest mirror in the hallway. It opened, not like a door, but like a wound inside it. I saw a version of myself I didn't recognize, eyes black, skin gray-green like bark, hair made of moss, and from my back branches she looked at me with sorrow and said, "Once you take root, you never walk again now." I don't sleep, not really. I stand in the nursery watching the mirror bloom, watching as the forest brings new girls to the door, girls like me, lost, hurting, alone. House always finds them, and the forest never chases. It waits. I don't know how long it's been, a season, a year? Time doesn't mean anything anymore. There's no sunrise in the forest, no moonlight. Only the heavy gray that stretches across the sky like a closed eye. And me, no longer Claire Benton, not really. I've taken root. The house doesn't trap you, absorbs you, and now I am part of ID. Remember the final night clearly, the night I stopped being a guest and became something else. It started when I woke up, not in my bed, but beneath the floorboards, my body buried under layers of soft pulsing soil. The earth wasn't cold, it was warm like skin. It welcomed me, embraced me, held me close. When I opened my mouth to scream, the dirt didn't choke me. It fed me memories, poured into my mind like water through roots, not just mine. There's the other girls, the other Claires, the ones who came before. I saw one from 1922, dancing in the cabin before she vanished. Another from 1964. Who thought she was staying for a writing retreat, one from 2001 who never even unpacked her bags. All of them had been called just like me, and all of them had stayed. The mirrors are gone now. They were only a bridge, a tool the forest used to reflect what we were and slowly show us what we were becoming now. There is only the tree, a great blackened oak. Behind the cabin, older than time, hollow in the center, its roots pulse when you step near. I saw my face inside its bark, my voice in its wind, my heartbeat in the ground beneath it, and then it whispered, "You've grown, daughter, take your place in the grove." I didn't resist, not anymore, because the truth is, I've been growing here all my life. The cabin wasn't chosen for me, I was made for it. Each girl before me fed the house, and now it's my turn to become part of its spine, to be its voices memory, its whisper. I stood in the middle of the clearing that night, naked, calm, complete. Forest opened its eyes, every tree leaned, and every flower turned its head, and the cabin breathed me in. The final ritual wasn't violent, it was gentle, like falling asleep in a place you've always belonged, like going home now. I watched. I don't need mirrors anymore. I see through the bark, through the fog, through the stillness. I see cars approaching once every few months, usually at night, always with women who are broken, searching like I was, and when they step onto the porch, the house knows their names, whispers it to the wind. "Welcome home, Camille. We've missed you, Ava. This is your soil, Riley." And I smile because I remember the fear, the denial, the final bloom, and soon they will understand too, because no one leaves the forest house. They just stop being visitors and start becoming roots. So, if you ever find yourself driving down an unfamiliar road, if your GPS glitches and you stumble on a perfect little cabin with no address, and it knows your name before you speak it, go in, because I'll be waiting with the others, smiling, blooming, growing, and once you step inside, we'll grow you too. Thanks for following this story until the last leaf. Tell if you felt the forest breathing with you through these words. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe before it's your turn to root. This story is written and edited by Dark Lifeside Diaries.